and also some ways to get involved and join. All right, a little bit about me. I have a master's degree in musicology from the University of Denver and a Master of Library Science from Texas Women's University. I've been working at Northeastern State University in our library system for about 3 years now. I'm based in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. It's a small town within an hour's drive of Tulsa in beautiful green country, Oklahoma, and it's the capital of Cherokee Nation. So one of my job duties is serving as the subject liaison to our music program, which means I get to engage in music librarianship every day in my job, as well as other duties as assigned. But it's been a great ride so far, and now I'm able to speak a little bit more about what the career field entails. So we'll go ahead and get started. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge and thank my colleague, Michelle Rivera, who is one of our ML Step co-chairs, for her assistance in helping me construct this presentation. She provided much of the information on ML Step's history and our membership statistics, as well as archival images and QR codes. I would also like to thank ML Step advisor Liz Burnt for her feedback on this presentation. Any errors in content are my own. So to begin, what is music librarianship? As the name implies, it refers to that branch of librarianship that deals with musical information. Music collections are very broad, so there are items in all kinds of formats, not just print or digital, but also audio-visual formats. You have printed works of music, so musical scores, sheet music. Then there are works about music, so works of music history, music literature, criticism, music theory, pedagogy, those sorts of things. Um, and then many musical materials are interdisciplinary, especially when you get into subfields of music education, music history, music in different cultures around the world, or music therapy. Combine that with all the different forms of audiovisual media, whether it's vinyl disc or streaming or cassette tape or something else. You've got a lot going on. So given all of the possibilities for music collections and research, it makes sense to have music librarianship as its own specialization within library and information science. So a music librarian is someone who specializes in music collections and research. So someone like me may be involved with any or all of the activities listed on the slide, whether it's collection development, research, outreach, teaching, or maybe something on the archival side like preservation. So it really depends on your background, skills, and qualifications. There are many possibilities for engaging in music librarianship in day-to-day work. A music librarian needs, at the minimum, a master's degree in library and information science, or the equivalent, and a background in music to meet the demands of the job. Because it's such a specialized field, a master's degree in music is preferred, and it is required for some faculty positions. However, a bachelor's degree in music or extensive musical training outside of higher education will also provide some of the background knowledge necessary to succeed as a music librarian. Music librarians are found anywhere that there are libraries. Many of us, myself included, work in colleges and universities, and we serve degree programs in music. You can also find music librarians in conservatories that train professional musicians, at performing arts ensembles like orchestras and opera companies, and working for corporations such as TV and film studios. Research libraries such as the Library of Congress and also some public libraries employ music librarians, as do music publishers and distributors. Finally, archives and special collections employ music librarians to manage and interpret collections of historical materials and manuscripts. Though a specialization in music is no guarantee of a job offer, it does open up some doors for you that you might not have had access to before. and it shows employers that you have knowledge and skills that sets you apart from other job candidates. If you want to read a little bit more about this career field, you can scan the QR code on this slide, which will take you to some general information from the Music Library Association. And I will be sending out these slides to Dr. Zhang, so he can send them out to all of you at the end of his presentation today. All right, so bringing things back to the group I'm involved with, ML STEP. This stands for Music Library Students and Emerging Professionals. So if you're new to music librarianship or at all interested and you don't know where to start, that's where we come in. We are an interest group sponsored by the Career Development and Services Committee of the Music Library Association, or MLA. And we consist of students and early career professionals, which are defined as early professionals who are within the first 5 years of their career in libraries. So that time frame between graduation with the Master of Library Science and the 5-year mark of your library career, those early career individuals. ML STEP gives students, librarians, and paraprofessionals who are interested in music librarianship a network for learning, professional development, and building professional connections in the field. And membership is free. So as I mentioned, we're designed for students like you and early career professionals. We seek members who are prospective or current students in any music or library science degree program, as well as recent graduates, early career professionals, and library paraprofessionals. We welcome students from all levels, whether undergraduate or graduate, library personnel from any type of library, and job seekers who have a degree and are looking for employment. You can see some of our members on the slide. That was at one of the MLA national meetings within the past couple years. We're a diverse group, all ages, and we come from all regions of the United States and Canada. So we have a pretty broad membership base, and if you identify with any of that, please consider joining. You can participate as much or as little as you want as you navigate your path into music librarianship. In bringing together individuals that are interested or involved with music and performing arts librarianship, ML STEP provides opportunities for its members to build connections with their colleagues in their first few years of the field. We also act as a forum for members to learn about and discuss our discipline. ML STEP is a great community for networking, support, social interaction, and professional development. This semester, we started a series of virtual coffee hour forums, excuse me, to discuss early career issues in music librarianship with guest panelists. Our first session was held on September 30th on the topic of music reference librarianship. Our next coffee hour will be held either at the end of this month or in early December on the topic of the job market. And I'm going to pause a second to take a water break. My voice is getting really dry. I'm also dealing with some allergies, so the pausing may be a thing as we continue, but hopefully it won't cause too big of issues. All right. To continue, ML STEP has also supported members by sponsoring paper presentations at conferences, namely at the MLA national and regional meetings. And we support and encourage members to participate in these conferences, helping with the proposal submission process and other logistics that may be new to first-time presenters. A presentation sponsored by ML STEP provides credibility and support of good faith through association with an MLA interest group. Our email digest, the gig list, collates job announcements and internship opportunities related to music, dance, theater, and fine arts. We also have social outlets via Facebook, Instagram, Slack, and meetup events at conferences and over Zoom. ML Step was founded in the 2010 academic year as the Music Library Student Group, or MLSG. In 2017, we changed our name to ML Step and opened up membership to emerging professionals. At last count, in 2023, we had 745 members on our email distribution list. ML Step has helped MLA grow its membership and bring new professionals into the field of music librarianship. According to statistics compiled by MLA Assistant Planning Officer Jason Mbisi, students and early career professionals now comprise 20% of MLA's total membership, compared with only 9% in the years between the year 2000 and 2017. Now let's look a little at the structure of ML Step itself. Our leadership consists of the ML Step board and liaisons. The chair and advisor oversee the activities of the group. Right now, we have 3 co-chairs who share the responsibilities of chairship. Other officer positions are the membership, programming, social media, and web technologies officers. We also have 10 chapter liaisons, of which I am one, who serve as intermediaries between ML Step and the regional chapters of MLA and the schools in our regions. Finally, and most importantly, are our members, of course. ML Step's leadership collaborates on growing membership, planning and delivering professional development opportunities for its members, and fostering good relations with other divisions of MLA. The membership officer and chapter liaisons conduct an annual membership drive each fall, reaching out to collegiate and university programs in music and library science to recruit new members. The board and liaisons meet once a month for planning meetings, where we make arrangements for upcoming webinars, coffee hours, and social gatherings. Many of us are heavily involved in our regional MLA chapters and advocate for student and early career member interests in those settings. This chart shows how ML Step fits in with our parent organization. As I already mentioned, we are an interest group sponsored by the Career Development and Services Committee of the Music Library Association, MLA. MLA, in turn, is the professional or association for music libraries and librarianship in the United States, as part of a global organization called YAML, the International Association of Music Libraries, Archives, and Documentation Centers. MLA is a national organization with 10 regional chapters. Regional chapters provide additional outlets for member engagement at the subnational level. As you can see by the chart, ML Step interacts with different levels of MLA, its regional chapters, and YAML through the activities of its board and liaisons. ML Step chapter liaisons collaborate with the respective chapter leadership to recruit members and achieve chapter goals. If you are interested in getting involved with MLA, you can join the national organization at the reduced student early career rate and take advantages of the services MLA offers to its members. MLA has a resume and cover letter review service for job seekers. If you're on the job market, you can submit a cover letter, resume, or CV to the service, where an MLA member with significant experience evaluating employment applications and hiring, managing, and evaluating staff will provide feedback. The service offers virtual reviews throughout the year, as well as face-to-face reviews during the annual MLA conference. There's also additional help with interviewing, where you can get practice on your interviewing skills. MLA's Career Advisory Service offers advice about the profession. Advisors consist of experienced librarians across many specialties within MLA. If you need help in a specific area, you can browse lists of advisors by specialty. Anyone interested in music librarianship at any stage of their career is welcome to use this service. MLA maintains a career resources page at its website that includes many other helpful resources, including resources for the recent graduate and internet resources for the job seeker. MLAL is the Music Library Association discussion list, a listserv that is free to join. Notes, the quarterly journal of the Music Library Association, is a peer-reviewed academic journal published 4 times a year, featuring articles, book reviews, and other publications by professionals in the field. MLA annual dues include the cost of an annual subscription to Notes. If you would like to get involved with ML Step, you can engage with us online through our blog, through Slack, or on Facebook or Instagram. We post news, reflections, and announcements through these channels. Our Slack group functions as a peer support group and is a great way to message fellow members at the national and regional conferences. At the bottom of this slide is the link to the main MLA website. And I'll come back to this slide at the end of the presentation for those of you who want to scan any of the links. If you are pursuing music librarianship as a career, I recommend that you join the Music Library Association and your regional chapter. MLA has 10 regional chapters representing the different geographical regions of the United States and Canada. And I am part of the largest geographic chapter, but probably the smallest in terms of membership, the Mountain Plains chapter, which I believe covers about 10 or 12 US states and 3 Canadian provinces in the central region of the continent. I've included links to the national organization and the regional chapters on the slide, as well as a link to the free MLAL listserv. The regional chapters have their own free listservs too. In closing, I hope that you join ML Step. Remember, membership is free, and you can join via the QR code or the link on this slide. If you have any questions or concerns, you're welcome to reach out to me at my liaison email or any of our other officers. So with that, I would like to thank you all for attending, and I would like to open the floor up to just general questions about the organizations or the career field, or anything else that might be on your mind with music librarianship.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Well, I will start with the most important or most interested the questions. How is the job market in music librarianship?
Right. So I remember one of the people that put this career field on my radar was actually a music librarian in grad school. And her quip was always that, well, if you want to do what I do at a music library in an academic institution, you have to wait until someone dies or retires. So depending on where you're looking, it can be a little tough. These positions in academic libraries especially are kind of few and far between. But there's also an opportunity in getting to advocate for yourself and your skills. And if you find a job opening at a place where they're willing to help you craft your job, you can negotiate your job duties during your interview. When I was hired at Northeastern State, um, they were actually looking for a music subject liaison. So that was something that was in the job description. So even though we don't have a music library, that was something that jumped out to me and appealed to me. So I like to recommend to up and coming folks, if they are looking for a position at a university in an academic library, especially if it's something related to research and instruction, um, that's the time when silence is not golden. And if you do get called for an interview, advocate for yourself and say, I have these credentials and skills. How can I serve you in regard to music and fine arts and performing arts librarianship? They might not even know that that's something they needed in their library, and that will give you the edge. So long story short, look around and advocate for yourself. You might have an opportunity to craft your own job. And don't be afraid to look in places that might not seem like they have a library. I know there's a lot of vendors and distributors out there. There's opportunities to work with databases such as the Naxos Music Library or RILM. They're going to need music librarians, especially catalogers, even though it's not an academic or educational institution, they are providing a service that ties in with music librarianship.
Okay. So there is a, in the chat, there's
Mhm.
a question. Can you speak to the difference between academic music librarianship and performance music librarianship?
Sure. So I'm an academic music librarian. I've never worked for, say, a symphony orchestra as a librarian for a performing arts organization. But a similarity in both roles is that you have to know something about reading and interpreting music to do your job well. So something that's come up here in my role, especially with paraprofessionals in our tech services department, is how do we catalog scores? How do we interpret what is in a printed collection of music, especially when you get into um, works that have a conductor's score and then also parts and making sure all of those parts are still there. Um, so that was something I had to have a discussion with our tech services folks about how, in order for this to be a complete item, you have to have all 20 or 50 little parts together in that binder. Um, and I imagine an orchestral librarian working for a performing arts organization or an opera librarian, they have the same considerations in mind, but they're also lending out music to the musicians who are performing and making sure that there is enough to go around and that licenses to perform the works are in good order. Because fun fact, if your organization ever wants to perform any works by the iconic John Williams, there are some licensing issues tied up with that as far as intent to perform, working with scores that are borrowed from the publisher and those sorts of things. So what it boils down to is having that knowledge of, oh, this is what goes into a musical work. This is how you interpret and collect and preserve, is definitely something that is in common with an academic music library job and then also a performing arts organization library job. Something I think one of the biggest differences is that with an academic music library job, you can expect doing a bit more research. You're working with faculty who are trying to publish books or articles. I don't envision that being so much of a thing if you're working for an orchestra or an opera company. Um, but I think another thing that both have in common is that you are working on outreach and education in different sorts of ways. So maybe with a performing arts group, you have more of an outreach role as far as getting audiences to come to your concerts. And in an academic library, you're trying to get your community to use your library and its resources. So a little bit of overlap, and a little bit of differences in both.
Hi.
Alex, you are in charge of the music, right?
Yes, I am. And so when I saw this webinar today, I was really kind of piqued because I have a couple of questions about, so I'm the liaison for music and performing arts for Emporia State. And I've been doing it for about a year. And but for me, I don't really have a music background. So you kind of mentioned a little bit that you have some people that don't have music backgrounds that kind of fall into this. So I was wondering, like, as far as ML Step is involved, like, are there many people involved that kind of don't have that music background? That's my first question. And then second, for someone who's kind of, kind of been told, hey, you need to step into this role, um, what do they need to do? What's your advice for helping them to kind of work more with the faculty?
Right. So I don't have precise statistics on which of our members of ML Step have degrees or formal education in music or even what instruments they play.
Right.
I think in general, the ones who are attending our coffee hours and hangouts and stuff, they've been musicians for life, so they're all in. But as far as the other 600 on our listserv, I have no idea. But that said, we would love to help have you. We are designing coffee hours to help all of us get better at working with music materials and doing music librarianship. So I think it is something that would help your professional development a lot, Alex. And as far as being a year into it and still getting your feet wet, um, I would I would do my best. If you haven't started outreach with faculty yet, I would start. I think the easiest way is to attend concerts, and that would be a great way to introduce yourself.
Huh,
Show that
that's
you're
good.
show that you're buying in a little bit to um, their programs, and then they will start buying in into the library. I know for me, like the easiest way to get in touch with faculty is to find out who all is teaching music history or world music courses, since those
Right.
typically have a research component. Um, and then offering to do a one-shot session for those classes. You might have a couple takers, and then if all goes well, they'll have good things to say about you, and they'll bring other faculty on board. So make happy those who are near, and those who are far will come. Um, and as far as improving your skills in music librarianship, I know like formal classes in music librarianship are kind of few and far between. I went to Texas Women's University, and UNT was just down the road, and I think they had a class in music librarianship, but I wasn't able to do like we had like a cross-institutional program where you could take courses at UNT, but I wasn't able to do any of that. So what I've learned, I've carried over from my degree program, and then also just learning on the job. And ALA, so American Library Association, every so often they will offer e-courses on music librarianship. As soon as those come up, take all of them, because that was the big thing that helped me feel ready to do things, especially like music collection development, because I had none of that training in my master's degree program. So I think I took the battery of courses a couple years ago, and it was, I think, 4 courses in music librarianship, cataloging, collection development, and basic reference questions. And I think it was about $200. It's probably gone up, but it was invaluable for getting me ready for my first job. Um, there's also the basic music library. It is a series of reference manuals, and it will, I think the current edition has 3 volumes, and one is classical, one is popular music, and the other is world music. And it outlines the essential scores and recordings that your library should have if you're building a music collection. So I have a copy of that on my shelf, and if I'm ever in doubt as to whether or not to acquire or read something, I go ahead and I thumb through that just to see where in the world something might fit in into that essential collection of music. So invest in your professional development, and then also show your faculty that you're there for them. I know one of my other duties as assigned is I'm a business librarian, so it was kind of an uphill battle with the business faculty here,
Yeah.
because they were like, why do we want to talk to a musician? But you use those library skills, um, showing them that if I don't know the answer, I can get you to someone who can. That goes a long way. So I hope
Yeah.
that's helpful.
No, that was all really good. Some really good ideas, and I really appreciate the advice.
Mhm.
Um, there's a related question that Charles put on here that
Okay.
actually I was kind of wondering too, but maybe this is another way of buy-in. But to what extent do you find yourself in the role of advising other staff about music copyright and licensing? And I don't know if that's maybe another area where you can really
Mhm.
work with the faculty.
Yeah, that's that's another long-term goal of mine is to actually get more skilled in that. One of my colleagues, she actually has a certificate from Harvard's Copyright X program. And she doesn't have a music background at all. She jokes that like, oh, my music background is I can count to four. One, two, three, four. Um, so and I always follow the just the general caveat of if you're not a legal scholar, don't offer advice.
Hmm.
So I try to stay abreast of just kind of what's going on in the world as far as court cases and whatever's going on with the Internet Archive or um, anything involving Spotify just in the news. But my document that I fall back on is just the general fair use guidelines of, hey, if we're in an academic institution of higher learning or any educational organization, in general, we have a little bit more leeway to do some things, but in the broad scheme of things, we need to err on the side of caution. So I try to, if someone has a specific question for me, I try to give them just some general advice, but then I say, like, depending on how deep you need to go, you might need to talk to a copyright lawyer, just because for for reasons that are bigger than me or my employer, I don't want to be giving legal advice, but yeah, just having a broad sense of like, oh, this is what copyright is and fair use, and those sorts of things. Sometimes even your archivist can help you because one thing we're looking at right now is how or whether to digitize our cassette tapes and our VHS tapes. So depending on what the work is and whether or not it is out of print, that's something that I'm going to be having questions for our archivist about. Um, but yeah, it's something that does come up from time to time,
Yeah.
especially uh, for music. But yeah, just kind of remembering your library ethics and just general practice will get you in a good spot.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I have a little kind of episode I kind of experienced before. My kid was in Emporia Community Orchestra, and kind of she was like 14, 15 years old, because she didn't have any idea about the licensing and copyright. And whenever the concert ended, they gathered quickly the scores.
Mhm.
Uh, so I didn't do a good job to explain to her. Uh, can you explain a little bit about that? Why do you kind of gather the scores? I mean, I guess it's for later use. But
Mhm.
I heard about copyright a little bit regarding that thing.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's something I still run into even with the community group I perform with. I'm in a university community choir, and just last week we had a Halloween recital where a few of us were singing in a smaller group, just some fun spooky tunes. Um, and we were using some photocopied music, and we had to do the scramble to shred them because we're performing with a university on university property. Um, I think um, as long as we do what we did, our university and music program pays fees to, I think, one of the big music publishers. I don't know if it's BMI or ASCAP, or I think CSAC is the other one, where anything we perform, we're pretty much covered by a blanket license. Um, so we don't have to worry so much about all of that, but technically, every performer has to have an original copy of the music, um, because it's tied up in issues of sale. And again, I don't know precisely enough as to why that is, but yeah, if you keep the copies, you're breaking copyright law. Not that the copyright police are going to bust down your door. But it has to do with, of course, royalties and making sure the artists are getting paid and the composers and the arrangers and all of the other people involved. But yeah, I think I need a more precise answer than that, Dr. Jong.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned briefly about John Williams. So,
Yes, yeah. Oh, that, yeah. W- License to or signing forms that you have to say intent to perform if you're going to borrow the score from the publisher, because he doesn't publish study editions of his scores even. There are piano arrangements of his scores. There are orchestral suite from Star Wars, but not the complete Star Wars score. So anytime anyone wants to look at those, they have to declare an intent to perform. And it's just kind of baffling because we can ILL a book uh, anytime, but we don't have to sign something that declares our intent to read. So yeah,
But it's a protection. It's really
yes.
funny because that is by no means new.
Mhm.
That's as old as the hills of
Yeah.
composers not publishing full scores exactly
Mhm.
for the purpose of preservation. I have a question for you, if I may,
Mhm.
because I was just struck when Alex was talking, and I thought, how do you deal with libraries that are not in the library? So performing groups, for example, the choral department, the orchestra department, the band department, where they all have their own private libraries that have never seen a librarian, have never been cataloged. You as the music librarian have no clue what's in there. You've no clue what's coming in, going out. And then they do all their own renting of orchestral parts. So you never see that at all. But how do you start to establish relations? Because that is actually not best practice, surely, to
Mhm.
have multiple private libraries, if you like, struck across campus. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as far as knowing what you have in inventory and cataloging, I agree, it's certainly not. But at my institution, I get a chunk of money every year to buy music materials for the library system. And just the way that things are in higher ed right now for public universities in Oklahoma, my materials budget per year doesn't even have a comma in it. So the funding for performing editions of scores for in parts, choral octavos or concert band pieces, that comes out of a completely different pot in the budget. So that's why things are happening the way they are. So I would hope that they have a budget with a comma in it to buy what they need each year. Um, but a discussion I have had with our admin assistant in music, they had basically a glorified closet of materials that were left behind by professors either retiring or moving on to other institutions of not only monographs, but of scores and other materials. And something she wants to do is hire a student assistant to start inventorying all of that and then having me serve as a mentor to get the students interested in, oh, this is what goes into running a music library. So there's definitely an opportunity for learning there, even if we just build a shared library with something like Sotero. It hasn't happened yet, but the dean is starting a program of fine arts internships on campus. So we'll see if it materializes, but I do get some questions from time to time about, oh, what do we do with this kind of score? And I can give some general advice, but there's give and take, pluses and minuses. So given given the many hats I've had to wear this year with some of my other duties as assigned, I'm kind of glad I don't have to worry so much about it. But at the same time, I do kind of wonder, oh, what's going on, especially with those photocopies.
And you can get permission to photocopy. I think we should say to people that very often if something is out of print, you can pay a publisher for the right to make a photocopy, and it's usually then you put a statement to that effect on your photocopies. So not all photocopies are violations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Important just because, you know, usually people see photocopy and think you are doing something that is wrong, but usually, and certainly music departments, an awful lot of that goes on with the permission of the publisher. So it's not that all these music departments are full of
Yeah.
fast and loose cowboys ripping
Yeah.
off the world.
Yeah. And the faculty that I've talked to, I think they're pretty proactive about what they're copying or not copying. In our choral group, we actually buy our scores. We buy them through Amazon typically, since they ship much quicker than they would to the campus bookstore. So it's good that faculty are aware, in that I haven't had to triage too much of the copyright questions, because that is something I need to learn more about. I don't think I'll ever be a legal scholar, but I just need to be better informed.
I have a question about the media preservation or management by music librarians. How much, and not only in your situation, but you know, in general, like kind of specialized music you know, collection librarians, how much do they spend their efforts or time in media, like vinyl and CDs and other kind of things? I mean, one time I saw it, Chicago Public Library maintains all historical players, regardless of the you know, media. It takes a lot of, you know, money and effort. So how much individual libraries you know, put their efforts in media preservation or management?
Yeah, I think honestly it varies from library to library. Something I'm working with right now is we are adjusting some of our spaces on the first floor where our circulating media collection is. Hence a push to begin weeding some of these materials that have not circulated, or maybe in a format like cassette tape that I don't know how many students are going to have a cassette tape player, so it probably won't get used. Um, so our collection's pretty small to begin with, so I don't spend a whole lot of time down there, but just trying to make a case with my colleagues that, hey, we're not just concerned about building a collection for the present, we also want to build a collection for the future, whether that's either something that's going to be in a special collection or an archive, or maybe if, say, CDs do take a vinyl turn and become popular again, um, and then preserving essential works. So I do spend a little bit of time with my collections, but again, ours is pretty small. So I spend a bit more time with research and teaching, and also building our print collection. And whether that is digital print items or traditional print items, looking more at monographs and scores. Now, one of my colleagues in our regional chapter, she's a paraprofessional at a public library in Utah. Um, I don't know what the background story is on this, but she has a pretty robust audio CD collection that she works with. And she says, I have several dedicated patrons who love to check out CDs, and they have their own little listening club going. And but I think hers is kind of the exception. She says it's about 5 or 7 patrons that are audiophiles, and then um, other patrons not so much. So it just kind of depends, but it's pretty hard to have a music collection without some recorded media.
So there is another question from
Mhm.
Charles. I don't know, you can see It's kind of long.
If you want to read that question, I'll just make the point. I remember quite a few years ago now reading the rather alarming statistic that something like less than 10% of material that had been published on vinyl records, on LPs, in fact, was subsequently published in a more modern format. And that starts becoming quite frightening from the library standpoint when you think that you have a collection or all this material is not available in more current formats, that it does purely exist only in vinyl, and who has a copy and what are they doing with it. So the whole idea of media and the change in media it's a problem. I mean, not just for music librarians, but particularly for music librarians, and especially in conservatoires, where it can be very difficult to deal with it. Okay, Maria, can you address Charles' question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. So Charles is asking about structuring a resume or CV so that academic employers will notice. Um, Again, this is about selling your strengths. Even if you have limited experience in your intended career field, um, shape it as if you are the person that they've been waiting for and they need to hire you. So when I got hired for my current job 3 years ago, I had been out of academia for about 6 years. My experience working in a library was limited to about 10 weeks of an internship, um, doing nothing related to music librarianship. Um, but I just remember selling myself in the resume in the interview, and emphasizing that you need someone like me who has these skills because there are going to be uh, issues within music librarianship that you didn't even know were an issue until they came up. But more to your point, Charles, someone once told me on a CV, especially since you have room on a CV, you can go on for however many pages you would like. Put the most pertinent information on the first 2 or 3 pages. So if they're wanting to see that you have, say, 3 years of experience in libraries, your job experience needs to go towards the top. If they want to see that you have the required degree, you put your education first. Um, there is some debate about whether or not to use an executive summary in your resume or CV. Personally, I've never used one. I didn't use one and I got hired for this job, I think maybe because I was able to address those points in my cover letter. A cover letter is a really great opportunity to explain who you are, and even though where you came from might not be um, the same as what the job is that you're applying into, it's an opportunity to explain, well, I did this thing and that ties into what this job is and what you're looking for. Or I did this thing and I got some soft skills that apply to this job. Or I did this thing which was soul searching and I learned that's not what I want to do. I want to do this job because A, B, C, and my skills 1, 2, 3. So employers are probably getting a lot of applications. They might take less than a minute looking at yours. Put that information where they can see it. And if you're still kind of stumped and not sure about how things look, find a career center person and get them to give you some feedback, or maybe one of your professors or academic mentors, or if you join MLA, you can utilize the career and resume services that we offer.
Thank you so much for the valuable suggestions. That's kind of good, really good advice. Highlights your kind of strengths and relevant information at the top of your, the resume. That's really valuable. All right. So again, it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much, Maria, for this wonderful occasion.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zhang and Emporia State for having me. I will email the slides so you all can have my contact information as well as the links to join ML Step, join MLA, all the good things. And I hope to see you out and about in the world and maybe even with ML Step. So thank you all.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.